Aloha, everyone. I am Amanda Patti and the host of the Radical RAWthenticity Sessions. Tonight, I'm super excited to bring to you Benny Fergusson, who is also known as the Movement Monk. How are you, Benny?
Good, thanks, Amanda. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's an honor and a privilege to have you on here. So Benny is the founder of the tension release technique, which is, in my opinion, one of the four leading modalities of movement to invite people to unite their mind, their breath, and their body, let go of pain so they can experience more freedom with how they move and a deeper awareness with how they experience their entire lives. Would you be willing to kind of share with the listeners how you kind of came about developing the tension release technique and a little bit more about what it's all about?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I'll say that tension is a very silent adversary. And it can be obvious in some people. For me, it got to a point where it was quite obvious when I went through a lot of sports and playing to quite a high degree in my areas. And I just kind of beat my body up over the years. I realized that I was really focused. Every time I was moving my body, I was focused on the prize, focused on what was going on outside of me. And I forgot actually how to feel my body. And so it took such a long time. And why I say it's silent, because for a long time, I didn't notice how much tension I was holding on to at a mental, emotional, and physical level. And it was only until my body kind of screamed loud enough that tension kind of crumpled me like a vice. And I just went from being able to jump really high and play good sport and all the things that I loved at that time to it being painful to walk. And that signaled me to do something about it. It was quite a long way. In reflecting back, there was a lot of signs along the way that I just wasn't attuned to listen to. So for me, a big part of my journey is and this process, and it's more than a technique. I've realized over the years as I've been teaching it, it's a practice that we can integrate into our daily lives rather than it just being about training. And yeah, so that served me, and now my spine works better than it ever has, not to mention the rest of my body. And it started with learning to feel and identify and release tension in the unfolding moments that happen. And yeah, so there's lots of things that are involved, but that's how I got started and started off for me. And I've now imparted these teachings and the principles with people around the world, and seems to be working for them too, which is really warms my heart.
Based on what you said, my interpretation of it is that you're kind of connecting to your body and discovering this new method of moving was a way to really tap into your body's wisdom and a method of kind of listening to and reclaiming your personal power and your own ability to heal versus what most people tend to do, which is give their power away to these diagnoses that they receive from their physicians.
Yes. There's a lot of things that you tapped into there. It's something that I believe is natural for us to be able to listen to and feel our bodies. And one thing that I notice, and this was particularly with myself and also lots of people that I've worked with, is if we're disconnected from that sense, let's just call it the kinesthetic sense. And let's just imagine that it goes beyond the skin, that we can even have an ability to feel our organs, feel the blood coursing through our veins, all of that sort of thing. If we're disconnected with that, then it can be really confusing. It's like, people say, listen to your body, but people don't know how, because it actually must be earned. It's something that's cultivated. You know what happens if you don't breathe? So So rather than like kind of go through this mediocre type of breathing, why not enhance that physiological function that is the trigger for all other physiological functions? It doesn't matter how well you eat. It doesn't matter how good your exercise is. If you're not breathing in a way that is actually like massaging your body inside, then everything else will be affected. So, and it doesn't have to be complex. Just breathe in. Gently feel the breath raise up, feel where it's going, feel where it's not going. Maybe hold it for a moment, observe, and then breathe out. And if anyone thinks that that's a bit wishy-washy, just do it.
You know, even if you die tomorrow, it's okay because you're so fully present with yourself and who you are in this moment.
And maybe there's just one thing that I'd like to bring up as well that you've brought to my attention. So when we talk about it, of course, you and I have had some time, we've worked through some shit. So breathing can become a more joyous experience. But I think what can stop a lot of people in the beginning is when they start to slow things down, then the stuff that they've been putting away, comes up.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So in the beginning, you know, for me in particular, when I started just paying attention to my breathing, it sucked. You know, my spine hurt in particular. Like it just, and then all these emotions came up, all these thoughts came up. I was in tears, and then I was like angry at myself for being a man and crying. You're a man, you don't cry, you know, all this bullshit, you know. And so it wasn't pleasant at the start. And my observation is that you can strive and strive and strive and strive and strive, but like what for? A lot of it we've got to uncover and kind of come back to who we are outside of who we've been told that we are. And then we can start to, I suppose, live in a more peaceful way. Don't repress what you feel is true and real just for the sake of getting approval from others, getting approval from your family, from your friends. At the end of the day, it will cause unrest within yourself. And the judge, jury, and executioner at your last breath is you. That's all you have to answer to. It doesn't matter what you've achieved, like in the outside world. I think we're all striving for happiness. So just be happy with who you are. And people that don't accept that, fuck them. Pardon my language, but... Yeah, so I say that in a really compassionate way. It just means that those people aren't your people. Be yourself and your people will start to come around you. If someone trying to make me grow or do something for me, more so like help create the circumstances that I can grow. Give me a challenge. Men love challenges. You know, I think real men love challenges. And I don't like the term real men, but like responsibility is there, but I'm no longer paralyzed by it. So these days I'm okay with fears. What I'm not okay is inaction amidst fear. Because it doesn't give an opportunity for you to disprove that assumption. It's like, I'm afraid of heights, so I don't go up in high places. Well, then how are you going to start to change the interaction with it? So every time that happens, whether you expect it or not, there it is. It doesn't mean you go on top of the highest building and shit yourself. Maybe you just start on a step ladder. But yeah, just striving for comfort and not willing to embrace uncomfort on your journey, on your path, whatever that is. It just doesn't give you an opportunity to show you what you can be. And to live a life where you don't really get to know what you're made of, for me, it's not a life well lived.
What a fantastic piece of wisdom from your teacher as well. And that's something I tend to share a lot with people. And moms in particular tend to be kind of really bad at filling up their cup first. And it's so important, I think, for us to, in general, to give ourselves permission to fill our own cup before giving to others, and constantly replenishing our supply and our love for ourselves before we share it.
Yeah, and one of my students said this to me the other day, where the person in his life said, "Oh, that's selfish." Actually, you know what? It's selfish to not give to yourself.
Right.
The implications of not giving to ourselves, and I say this because there's so many people that don't, that need to, and I'm not one to tell people what to do, but like, seriously, give to yourself. It's okay. It's actually not selfish, because the process of giving to yourself allows the flow of giving. Like, if you had the choice to have the same outcome with less effort, which would you choose? It's really simple as that.
Right. Yeah.
You choose to walk down the street, and for that to be less strenuous, to like pick up your kids, to crawl, do whatever, play, whatever it is, even stand up and work. If you could do that with less effort, would you? And what I will say confidently is you can. You can. It doesn't take as much as you would think, but you got to practice. You got to practice being in a state of effortlessness, being able to release the tensions that cause restriction in your life, that obstruct fluidity and the natural flow of things, of your physiology, of your thoughts, of your emotions, all of those things. So it's really just a choice. It might seem boring. It might seem like the other things are more important. But let's think in a bigger perspective, like, what would you really like for your body, for the way you feel about it on the inside? Like, what's that experience? If you dared to dream, what would you like it to be?
How can they find out more about you, and what's a good way for them to contact you?
That's easy. So I share lots of resources. I'm really big on education and teaching and just sharing my experiences as well. And I do a lot of that at my website, which is movementmonk.xyz, not .com, .xyz. And they can go there and read things, see videos of me doing things and blah, 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 all that sort of thing. They can also contact me via the contact form on that page. Otherwise, they can send me an email at aloha@movementmonk.xyz. I've got social media and all of that sort of thing. People can find it. Just look up Benny Fergusson or Movement Monk, and chances are they'll find me on one of those streams. I think it's good for people to know also that I don't work with everyone. I work with a certain type of person who's ready to put in the time, who's ready to actually cultivate something that's worthwhile. And it's not for everyone as well. So, just for people that are watching, I suppose if someone's come this far in the video, they're probably fairly interested in all of this sort of stuff. So like I really only like to have conversations with people who actually are ready to take responsibility. And so if you are ready to take responsibility, then let's have a conversation.